Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me in this latest video blog. I'll cut to the chase on this one. Many of you will know that I'm very close to finishing the Elusive documentary, which has been in production for about 2 years now, and I'm always darting here and about working on other things. Not always commercial projects, sometimes it's just stuff that I just put out on YouTube, a lot like my research trips and that kind of thing. So the first thing I want to talk about is the recent documentary that I released on the Zohar Stargate channel called the Bempton Phenomena. So there's a link to it below. If you're a subscriber to me, you probably won't have seen that unless you've found it through Facebook. I think it's on about 30,000 views, which is the reason that it's on there and that I now release sort of my the longer duration stuff on there, because it's just reaching a much bigger audience. And on this channel, and on a small channel like this, you just can't generate that sort of view count and get the information out, which is really what it's all about. So if you follow this link, you'll find it a really interesting documentary. Yes, it was a last minute documentary, and Paul and I didn't have a lot of Paul. That's Paul Sinclair, who the author of this book here, Truth Proof. There's a second one to this and a third one coming. Paul's a fantastic guy, great author, fantastic researcher, and he's been a huge help to me in researching for the Elusive documentary, which is released this autumn. So that was one of the first things I wanted to talk about. Just follow the link to that, the Bempton Phenomena. Yes, it's under a different name. It's under sort of UK Skinwalker. That's sort of the tagline to it, and that's because it shares some of the phenomena found in the US Skinwalker situation. A couple of things I'll say about that is that, and I'm going to be releasing another video which I'm going to put on here on this channel, and that's to do with stuff that we can't show on that other channel, and that is the images of the cattle that we found up there that were mutilated, because we've had a few comments on the video talking about why we're not showing the images of the cattle and proving that Paul has actually found them. And I can guarantee that he's found them, because I've got the images and I've got the videos, which you'll see shortly, and you'll see that in the Elusive documentary, which I'm going to be releasing online and on DVD. It's just that we can't show it. YouTube's new policies are that we can't show animal mutilation, which makes sense, really, I guess. I mean, it's a good way of getting yourself booted off YouTube, which is really what, nobody wants that to happen. So that's why we didn't feature that evidence in that documentary. But I'm going to make another video talking. Paul and I are going to talk a lot more about that to clue you guys in as to the situation with that. Anyway, gotta do some waffling. The next part is quickly about Elusive. It's almost done, and I've been saying that for a while, but I've just got a few little bits of presentation that I have to film, and the reason I've been waiting to film them is because I've got a gimbal on order, which I need to film that presentation piece, because there's a lot of walking through the woods, and there's nothing worse than having a camera man trying to follow you through the woods and the camera's all over the place. It's no good. And the last thing that I want to talk about, which is what this video is all about, and that is, you guys will know that over the last few years I get contacted, or you won't know that I do still get contacted by reptilian contactees and witnesses to this day. And yes, Don't Mention Reptilian Part 2 will be out next year, early next year, because Elusive will be finished and I'll be able to get on with that. And it's pretty rare, other than when you plan these things, that you get to meet face to face. Sometimes I'll pay a cameraman in America to do or Australia, or wherever it might be, to go and film the witness, or I'll visit them myself and they won't go on camera at all. Or in this case, I turn up at a conference and this gentleman just approaches me and says, "Hi Chris, it's such a body." I'm not going to give his name because we're going to keep that anonymous. And I knew immediately when he said who he was, and he said, he very briefly said what the account was. I knew exactly who he was, and I was absolutely made up, because he's a really nice chap as well. We had a fantastic weekend. and he was really nice enough to allow us to record his account, because what he had very recently, there's another link under this video where you'll see that I used some of the unseen footage from Don't Mention Reptilians to put a documentary on the Zohar Stargate channel, which is where the Bempton Phenomena channel is on as well. And it's generated something like 200,000 views, that video. I mean, it's incredible, really. You know, some of my videos are on here for years and get, what, 7,000 views or something. I think it's been on something like 3 or 4 months, and it's had 200,000 views. You know, I can never dream of hitting those sort of numbers on this channel, which is why I use them. And they're a great bunch of guys actually as well. And anyway, this guy had seen the cut, that extra footage where I talk about his account, and he wanted to clear up a few things that I got wrong. And he said it wasn't necessarily that I'd got them wrong, which I think I did actually, but also that the story out on the internet, which is on a few sites that deal with reptilian stuff, they also got it a little bit wrong. And that tends to be what happens. So in this account, you're going to hear it from his mouth, his words, the account. I've had to hide his face and change his voice, but everything that he talks about in this account is in detail, and you're going to hear it's a fascinating account. And to hear it in person was sort of, sometimes when you meet a witness, it's very similar to when I met Deborah Hartswell, and when Ellis Taylor, sometimes when he recounts some of his experiences, you get that sort of hairs on your arms stand up, and I don't know, you just sort of know that they're telling you the truth. And I got that feeling with this guy as well. So I hope you enjoy the account, and head over to the Zohar Stargate channel to watch the Bempton Mystery, because it's a great documentary. If you haven't seen the Don't Mention extra footage, there's a link down there to it as well. And I hope you enjoy this interview. It's what I want to do is keep it as raw as possible, because you know there's a temptation there to add some background music in, but I don't want to do that, because I want to keep it raw, because he was kind enough to come and meet me randomly. I sort of announced on Facebook that I would be attending this conference, and he saw that, and he just turned up. So it was amazing, really. So hope you enjoy this account, guys. I'll be uploading that other video regarding the Bempton mystery and the elusive stuff, and the Skinwalker, Dogman, Sasquatch stuff soon. Anyway, okay, thanks for listening, guys. Waffle over.
Okay, so it was my first deployment overseas, and it was to barracks in Paderborn, Germany, and we'd had to move block because our block was getting renovated, and we were based with the Royal Engineers. And I was in a 3-man room. It was winter time, it's quite cold, and it was Friday night. My 2 roommates had gone out. One was with his girlfriend, the other one had gone out drinking, and I was just in the room alone. Fell asleep Friday night, nothing special, because I was saving up money to go to Amsterdam, I believe, later on, like the next week. So I woke up, and basically the sun was coming over the building, which was in my eyes. So I've turned over to obviously avoid the sun. And as I've turned over, there was something stood in my bed space. And as I've looked up at it, it essentially resembled a humanoid figure with a reptile's head. It had the eyes were pointed. I'm sorry about this. I don't know why I'm sort of flapping here a bit now about it, but towards the side of its head, it had the slits in it, It was very muscular in appearance. Its arms, its chest, its upper body was quite muscular. Sorry about this, I'm stumbling my words here. Is there any chance? Just crack on. Just don't make me look a fool, yeah. It was quite muscular. It had a belt on it around its waist with silver cylinders in, which measured about 25mm by 50mm. So long cylindrical cylinders. As I'm looking at it, it's slightly transparent, and I've essentially pushed myself up on my elbow to get a grasp of what it was I was looking at. I'd never heard of David Icke, I'd never heard of reptilians, I'd never heard of aliens. It was a concept and an idea which had never entered my head, ever, to be honest with you, in my entire life. I'd heard of grey aliens and stuff through television, but I've never heard of a reptilian. So I've pushed myself up on my bed with my elbow, and I'm looking at this creature, and it's staring right back at me, in regards to its slightly tilted its head, because the eyes, the way they're positioned, they're not like ours, they're not humanoid in regards to, we look straight ahead, theirs are more slightly positioned on the side of the head. And it's just dawned on me, what am I looking at? And this idea came into my head, the motion of sleep, and I just collapsed onto my bed and fell asleep. So I woke up again after being knocked out, after being put to sleep by this reptile creature, and I'm assuming it was 10 minutes later on, as the sun was relatively the same, with the light coming in through the window, and I was in bed for 10 minutes in absolute shock, trauma, fear. I couldn't physically move. It was the fight, flight, and freeze. I was frozen. I was trying to contemplate what had just gone on, what I'd just seen, and just the situation I was in. Was it still in the room with me? Was this thing hiding in one of the lads' bed spaces? What was it going to do? So, just instinct kicked in. I had a weapon, which is what you normally stick across you, and you put all your ammo in, your rations and stuff, you take it on exercise with you. My weapon was just to the left-hand side of my bed. So what I done was I reached down, and inside my weapon, where the ammo pouches were, I had big, thick metal cylindrical bars, not hollow, fully thick, which we used as weight, because we needed, like, let's say 10 to 15 kilograms in the weapon, and these things were perfect for it. So I picked up one of them out of my bag to use it as a club or as some sort of weapon if this reptile was still in my room, if it's still in my bed space. So what I done was I got out of bed. I'm absolutely terrified and petrified. So I've got these weights, they're about 6 inches. These weighted chunky cylinders that I've got out of my weapon. I've gone around the room. I've gone into my mate's bed space first to see if it was hiding in there. My heart's absolutely racing. I was terrified. Absolutely, if this creature was here, I was going to give it everything I could, because I didn't want to die. And I was going to go out kicking and screaming if this thing was still in my room and it posed a threat to me. So I've cleared my mate's bed space, the first one, to the right hand side. And then as I've gone through, it's like a tiny little passage. I've got an opening to the left where the door is, and an opening to the right where my other friend's bed space was. So I've poked my head round the corner, and I'm ready to go either side. If this thing jumps out on me, I'm giving it my all. And I've looked round. His bed space was clear. To the left, the doorway was clear, and I've just made a beeline for the door. I've run straight to the door, pulled the handle, launched the door open. I've thrown the weight so I don't look threatening when I come out into the corridor, because for all I knew, the creature was in the room with me. as I've ran out, there was a lad. It was opposite my room was the ablutions, the toilets, the bathroom area, and there was a guy going in to obviously have a shower, and there was so much relief when I seen this guy in front of me, because essentially there was another human being there. There was two people. I wasn't alone. It was that. So he's gone into the bathroom, and I've gone in behind him, because I just needed to be around someone. I didn't know who he was, because I was still new to the regiment, and I've ended up going to the sink. I've washed my face. Looked at myself in the mirror, and I was just contemplating, like, what's gone on here? What's happened? Is this for real? I'm questioning myself, like, has this just happened? Is this creature just actually being in my room? You question, you're going mad. Like, all the sensations are real, the fear, the adrenaline, all of that is absolutely, your heart's racing. It's very hard to describe, like, but it's like you're going 100 mile an hour, whether it be your thoughts, your heart. I didn't know what to do. I know I didn't want to go back into my room because I was terrified. I believe, from what I understand, what it did is, I think I stayed there for a couple of minutes, and I'm not too sure. This is the thing. I think I went to one of my friends' rooms, and I believe I stayed there for about an hour or two. And I stayed in his room. I think I woke him up, just chatting to him, general stuff. I wanted to stay in his room for a bit, because I didn't want to go back to my room until my roommates had come back in, and then I was with other people, because I didn't want to be in my room alone, knowing that there was potentially a creature, potentially this reptile humanoid in my room. So that's what I did. I stayed with my mate. I never said nothing to him. You know what though? Let me just backtrack for 2 minutes. I'll tell you what. I did go to his room, but I was going to go to the guard room. I left the bathroom, and I was going to go to the guard room to report to them that there was something in my room. And I just had like a moment of clarity, where it was a case of, I thought, no one's going to believe me here. No one is going to believe what I've just seen, what I've witnessed. I was justifying it in my own head, saying, well, if it was a Russian, if it was, some sort of Iraqi, Afghan, if it was a spy, I'd be obliged to report that I'd seen some suspicious activity in my room. I was trying to justify it in my head morally, and, to get the courage to go, well, what's the difference? This is obviously, this is an alien. It's no different to the Russian. It's still something foreign in your block. And I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just couldn't work up the courage to go to the guard room and report it, because I just believe, it was weird clarity. I thought, no one's going to believe what I have to tell them here. And that's when I ended up going to my friend's room, and I just stayed with him for a bit. But I was seriously contemplating going to the guard room and reporting what had happened. But I was still new to the unit, and I just didn't have the courage. I didn't have the courage to tell them. It just seemed so unbelievable, like. So.
Obviously, shortly after that, in hindsight, you're going to have a lot of time to think about what happened. And I know you talked about potentially this conversation that you might have had. It felt like a conversation, but it wasn't. So talk about a little bit about what you.
After seeing this creature, and it put me to sleep. When I woke up, don't get me wrong, the emotions were still there, the fear, the trauma, I suppose, all that was still happening. But in my head, I knew what it was. It's as if we had a conversation. It's as if we'd had like a 2-minute conversation, or certainly 2 minutes worth of information that it had relayed to me. So, like, these are ideas I had in my head. I just knew what it was, because it had probably put that information there. It told me it was a reptoid, which was a reptile, which stood for reptile humanoid, which fitted the description of what it looked like. It was humanoid in regards to it had 2 arms, 2 legs, strong upper torso and a head, but it looked like a reptile in regards to its head. It looked like a lizard or a raptor, something possibly prehistoric, but essentially that same sort of fit and head. But reptile humanoid is, I believe, the term it used for itself. When I was looking at it, I was fixated with its belt, because this wasn't just some dumb creature. It was able to manufacture a belt, and it was able to manipulate metal, which was just screaming at me like, this is intelligent. What you're looking at's intelligent. It's intelligent. It can manufacture, obviously, and manipulate material. And I couldn't stop looking at it. And the thoughts that I had with it essentially put into my head the idea that these cylinders were used to put out a signal, put out a field, which essentially bent light around it, which was used to deflect or bend photons, something along them lines. And I believe that the example it used to describe it was if you had a cylinder, again, but a clear cylinder of glass with water in, and you were to put a pencil or something thin in, that the water would bend the light around it. So in certain aspects, in certain lights, it would appear as if the pen wasn't there, or whatever material down the middle wasn't there. And that was the example that it gave to me. So very basic, very simple for light bending tech. Okay. And the last thing that it told me was, and this is all telepathic, by the way, none of it's spoken. The last thing it told me was, it was here on a recce, and it was the term recce, not like, which means it was here on reconnaissance. So it was here recce in the area. So it was doing reconnaissance on barracks. It was doing reconnaissance on Paderborn, that area, which the impression I got was it was coming back. It was only scoping the area out. It was scoping the base, the soldiers, the manpower. It was doing like a spy, I suppose. It was doing reconnaissance. It was doing reconnaissance work on our barracks, and it was doing it whilst we were all asleep. It was doing it whilst I was asleep. I suppose one of the most terrifying things is, as well, was obviously when I seen this, the sun's coming out. It was daylight. This wasn't in the middle of the night. It wasn't hiding in the shadows. It was there, in the morning, sun cracking the flags, or, certainly the sun shining through. And it was able to access a military base with, possibly 1,500 soldiers on, with ease, absolutely undetected, and without any sort of, without being hindered whatsoever. So these were other things that also came into my head. And it was that sort of fear that, well, if this thing can get into, a military base, obviously armed with soldiers, well-fit, young men and women, capable of fighting, obviously it just dawned on me the tenacity of this species, this creature, and the tech as well, and just how sort of, just how below the food chain we are, was another thing that came to me. Like, I suppose it was a bit of a fear, a bit of a trauma, but obviously it was something I never thought of. Human beings have always been top of the food chain, and now it's a case of we weren't. We were second best. We were second best to a being or a creature which we don't know about, we can't see, and has the ability to manipulate a human being's mind at random, and you don't know what type of thoughts it's putting in. So I suppose after that experience, it was terrifying to contemplate, obviously, the next moves, and just reassessing my own position, and just sort of the position that we were in as a species, and I'd never thought about it that way. That was quite traumatising. And it took a couple of years to sort of get over and analyse our position and stuff. But
Is that why you left the military?
yeah, I don't know. I ultimately left because of the reptile. Yeah, I couldn't like. Years later, when I realised, obviously, there was lots of people who'd had experiences with reptiles and reptilians, and that there was actually a lot of people with a lot of information about the topic. I found it hard to sleep, because you don't know when you go to sleep if something's going to come into your room, if something's going to be there watching you. If you don't know what the agenda of these beings are. You can't see them. Ultimately, you can't control yourself or defend yourself if these guys telepathically want to get into your head. You just ultimately you're second guessing yourself on lots of different aspects of life, and I didn't want to be in that environment, knowing that there was a being or a creature like this operating on our military base. So, and not only that, I was obviously reading a lot of alternative media, a lot of different things, and I was wising up to the military and our positions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and morally, I just didn't agree with it. After actually going to Afghanistan, experiencing some of the, or experiencing seeing some of the horrible things that, as the result of war and innocent people being harmed, injured, amputees, real horrible stuff. Like, it was absolutely morally against every sort of fibre in my body that I should be doing this as a job. And I just decided against it. And, in the end, I just thought, well, this isn't for me. It was a brilliant experience, and I got to learn loads from it. And it made me the man I am today. But ultimately, it's not the future or the career I wanted. I didn't want to be in the business of hurting people or being someone else's puppet. So I decided to leave.
And through your circles, quickly,
Yeah.
you synchronistically met people on your journey that had experienced very similar things, particularly in Zimbabwe, was it?
Yeah. So some of the people that I was in my unit with, I'm not going to name any names of that, but there was lads that were in my unit in my specific section whose families and wives were from Zimbabwe, and they were in the Ariel school they were in Ariel school when the alien spaceship came down and the two beings got out, so the two grey aliens. And I ultimately found myself in sort of a circle where I was surrounded by people who'd had alien encounters, and it was just so peculiar from having sort of no idea about aliens or anything like that, except for some of the stuff like the greys that you see in pop culture, to having an experience and then ultimately being surrounded by people who'd also had experiences. And it sort of just reinforced my own belief in what I'd seen, and it gave me that sort of confidence boost where you're like, okay, this is real. I'm not imagining it, I'm not going insane, and not only that, there are people around me who have also experienced the same thing, or similar things of creatures and beings which aren't of this planet.
Did you get any feeling about its sort of locality? Was it from here? Was it on the bit? Was it even part of the base, perhaps, or did you just? Is that just? Have you no idea about any of that?
My assumption is obviously, but what it told me was it was doing reconnaissance work on us, on our base. I'm assuming it's the base and the manpower and the military logistics and not myself. So it was doing a reconnaissance work on barracks, on the manpower, the people. So I'm assuming it's foreign. I'm assuming it's from somewhere else. That can be another planet, it can be another galaxy, a different dimension. I just know it wasn't native to that area. Yeah, sorry, mate. No, it's fine. I'm glad that you wanted clarity on it. No, that was just my opinion, though. Yeah.